So I'm here outside the gates of Allianz Stadium in Sydney, prepared to watch the Waratahs and the Force. It's going to be a cracking game. I haven't even looked at the TAB odds yet, but I tell you what, if I'm going to put any money on this, it's going to be the Western Force because they have been in red-hot form. They've got Ben Donaldson at 10, who has been absolutely killing it, and so far there's been lots of Waratahs jerseys streaming in and around the ground. We're soon going to head in. I had to stop and pause before I recorded this because I was watching the Moana versus Hurricanes game, and my oh my, what an absolute performance from Tana Umanga's men there at North Harbour for a second week in a row at the home ground. There's a lot of cheer-hooing, a lot of chahooing, and there has been a lot of noise from the crowd, and why not? Because it's been an absolute impeccable performance from the Moana Pacifica side. And so I'm about to head in and I'm going to take you in to see what it's like being a journo here at Allianz, but then a journo all around the world in rugby games. Let's get into it. So we've arrived at the stadium. We're here in the media box and some of the journos are getting set up. They're there behind me working like proper professionals. Me, I'm just going to bask in the glory of being here because it is only a couple of times I've been here and it's a pinch me moment every time I get to sit up here. So pitch is looking great. Weather so far is also good. Humid as always at this point of time in Sydney. And you know, by the time you're watching this, you already know the result, but the build-up is looking really, really good. Pitch is dry, as I mentioned, but that's not going to stop the ball from getting nice and greasy throughout the game, as it always tends to do for some reason here in Sydney, despite the stellar conditions. We're going to get really excited about this game because the Force are running red hot and the Waratahs have been at home and have really done the business up front with their forwards, and it's just going to see now if a shift to 10, Lawson Crichton, and then Edmund back to the bench is going to see if this if their attack starts to fire, and it's going to be really exciting to see because they've got a quality backline with Joey Walton back in the 12 jersey. Henry O'Donnell retains his 13 jersey, and of course the big props up front are going to be Angus Bell and Taniela Tupou, and they are going to have to do a lot in this scrum, which they did last week, to be able to make sure that they're on top and keeping their side rolling forward with some of those penalties in the scrum. For the Force, they are looking really, really good as well. Just a well settled pack, a little bit of a shift around, and Jeremy Williams comes back into the second row. It's a boost. The captain's a good leader. Obviously, a former Waratahs are going up against his teammates, as well as Dylan Peach and Ben Donaldson. It's going to be a really good night. So I can't wait to get into it and hope you guys enjoyed the game. And I'm going to definitely start to enjoy it now.
Gordon feeds it, the strike's good. Gordon will take it to the right. Crichton floating one, wide and long for Jorgensen, who accelerates away and his lower limbs. Swaying short side, driving at the line. Tizano now, Tizano!
Try is good.
Against his former club. And it's 5-5 kick to come. Short side mix-up now with Kellaway.
Counter's good.
Great counter up from the Western Force. And they just win it straight back. Oh, it was play on. Jorgensen for his second. It gets away from Donaldson. Jorgo Jr. goes in for try number 2.
Alrighty, so it's halftime here for the Waratahs and the Western Force, and I'm here with the very distinguished Nathan and Finn, and you boys know these from all around the podcast and the journalistic world from Rugby Pass and rugby.com.au. And so the first thing we're going to say is, what are you going to say if you were to summarise that first half for the Waratahs there, Nate?
Look, tight. I mean, the Force gave it. The defensive line was very good, but I thought Max Jorgensen was excellent. I think their forwards are just starting to get into the game, and this is probably the time where they've got to try and kick on if they want to close this game out.
And Finn, if I'm going to talk to you about what the Force are not doing right, or where do you think they're kind of struggling to be able to get into this game because they are a fair bit behind the 8 ball here, what do you reckon they can do in the second half?
I think it's just scrappy at the moment, John. It's they're a team who they do have talent across the board. We've seen that in the first 3 rounds of the season, but at the moment, whether it's poor execution, intercepts, errors, they're gifting a lot of ball to the Waratahs at the moment. And when the Waratahs do have the weapons that they do have, like Nathan mentioned, Max Jorgensen in particular with the double in this first half, it's deadly, and it's going to cost them if they keep going this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what I'd like to say is that I'm not necessarily sure that Lawson Crichton is making them look better, but they definitely look more organised, and I think their structures, they're still very forward dominated. I haven't seen any strike plays directly apart from the one that they broke through in the halfway through the first half there, but I haven't really seen too much from the Waratahs in way of change necessarily. Quick comment on if you've seen any direct change there, Nate, for the Waratahs?
Not really. The first pass to Jorgensen was a nice sort of floating ball, but yeah, it just seems a bit clunky, and partly it's just what the Force are doing. They're making it a real sort of arm wrestle and just disrupting that ruck so well. So yeah, it's just one of those things that if they can get cleaner ball, I reckon they can sort of unleash a bit more in the second half.
And yeah, Finn, same?
I'm going to disagree a little bit, actually. I think, it was definitely a... Someone's going to do it. No, I think it was definitely a selection bombshell from Dan McKellar this week to drop a wallaby, a one-test wallaby to be fair, but Tane Edmund, if you followed him in NPC last season, he was quite brilliant over there, but he's failed to fire to quite the extent people would have wanted in Super Rugby over the last 2 seasons, including this year. This change, it's ambitious from the Waratahs, but I think so far, starting with that first try for Max on the wing, it's a sign of what the Waratahs want. They need that X factor, even when the likes of Lalakai Feketi, Joseph Akuso-Suli'i, they're not on the field, but Crichton's still able to get this team moving forward. Yes, they're a forward-orientated team, but they're making progress, and they put some good points on the Western Force in this first half, and they might not have done that last week.
Forward-orientated team indeed under Dan McKellar, but I think that overall the Western Force have got the tools in the bag to be able to make this a fight in the second half, and I also believe that it could be a redemption arc for Tane Edmund if he comes on and actually pulls away with his team, or it could be his good mate Ben Donaldson who steers the Force to the end. But by the time you watch this, you guys will know the result. That's just our quick takes at halftime, and you know where to find these guys on the socials. Nathan Williamson? Williamson. Nathan Williamson and Finn Morton from Rugby Pass, where we write together. And then what's your podcast? Give it a quick plug.
Drop Kickoff on the Green and Gold Rugby Network.
And then Finn, you've been doing a little bit of that socials as well on Instagram and TikTok. Is it TikTok as well or just Instagram?
It's TikTok as well. We'll say Nath has a good podcast. I've been on there once. It's waiting for him to have me back. But yeah, Finn Morton Sports, just look that up and give me a follow.
And then you can see a little bit more of these guys on Off the Rock YouTube channel right here, and hopefully a little bit more on the socials while we try to give you guys some analysis. But back to the game.
Penalty advantage for New South Wales. Tomkinson flew up, and now there's space down the left. Jorgensen, Lancaster finds the line. Horton peels away. Horton caught short. They're over. Have they got it down, or is it held up? Is it held up? No, it's a try.
Well, that's a wrap here in Sydney after the Waratahs comprehensively dismantled and took care of the Western Force. And I'm going to be the first one to eat my own words, and if there's a hat local around the Sydney precinct, then hand it to me, because I was pretty confident on the Force's ability to be able to do a number on the Waratahs this time, but that was not to be after the Waratahs played quite well. Nate, how would you take a look at that game in first instance?
First thought was Dan McKellar last week in the press conference called out the Waratahs not closing the game out in a similar position, and they really answered. That second half was very good from them. In terms of the way they were just clinical, they forced the Western Force to make a mistake, no pun included, to really sort of infringe and sort of pull the penalties, and then just took their opportunities. I thought it was a real sign of the class of this team starting to come through and starting to come together, even though it wasn't as sharp as people were expecting from a game like this.
Yeah, and Finn, you have your own little mic over there, so what do you reckon?
I'm feeling pretty lucky, actually. Pretty special. It's
you speak kind of softly, so do you want to hold it a little bit closer? I get it from from the Kiwi land.
Yeah. Look, I think I'll plug Rugby Pass real quick. Something I just wrote. Actually, I'm still not convinced that the Waratahs are the real deal this year. Cameron Shepherd said that on Stan Sport this week, and while the scoreline suggests that maybe they are, they put a number on this Western Force team who maybe haven't travelled too well after making the long trip away from Perth. The Tars, I'm still not quite convinced as good as they were tonight, that they are the real deal. I think they've still got to prove themselves in the coming weeks, starting with the Queensland Reds next week in Brisbane. I think that's a huge test for them, and but still, step in the right direction. Let's not be too naive or overlook this performance completely, but also let's not get carried away.
Yeah, no, I think that's very level-headed, but I think also been pretty critical of how the Waratahs have looked attack shape-wise, but it was nice to see that the quality of the players that they have in their backline particularly were able to shine with some space. Dave Parecki made a point in the post-match press conference to be able to say that they should big up the piggies and back the forwards a little bit harder, but I think that getting the ball wide with some decent space and time really showed for the class of players like Max Jorgensen, who he and Darby Lancaster both outplayed their respective wingers, there must be said, even though Dylan Peach did get some good moments. If you were to pick a top player from each team, Nate, you want to start Waratahs and then go Force?
Yeah, I mean, Max Johnson's a standout, with the 2 tries, but I thought Rob Leota, particularly as an underage shout, was very good. In terms of the Force, I thought Darcy Swain caused chaos all night. I thought, he was probably your standout. And Hamish Stewart looked dangerous, but just sort of didn't take his opportunities. But, yeah, like I say, a lot more positives from the Waratahs in terms of standouts in your Force. But, yeah, that's what happens when you're on a scoreline like that. That ultimately is sort of not going to flatter the Force. And Simon Cron's probably about to rev up in the press conference we're about to face. So we'll look forward to it.
Yeah, and Finn, who are your picks? Maybe just one from each.
Look, I had 1,000 thoughts race through my head just as Nath was speaking, because I want to go with the boring selection. I'll just put it out there, say Max Jorgensen, 2 tries, like Nath said, stand out. That intercept midway, or 33rd minute, he scored his second try, was especially pretty impressive, and almost had a third early in the second half, but that was called back for a forward pass. But from a Tars point of view, I will just go with a left field selection. And I'm going to back up what I said earlier today and just say Lawson Crichton. I thought
Doubling down.
I'm doubling down. Again, Jorgo's the obvious answer here, and that's the serious answer. But Crichton, I think, deserves some credit for stepping into that 10 jumper. And I don't want to say there was pressure on him, but when you do get picked ahead of a Wallaby, there is a sense of expectation that follows you. But I think it all started with that pass to Jorgo for that first try. Deserves some credit. And from a Force point of view, another maybe boring or predictable answer, but Carlo Tizana. The bloke can't stop scoring tries. It's quite freakish. 6 tries in 4 games now. It's pretty outstanding from a back rower. So I don't know how they're going to do it with McWright and Tizano, but got to get them in the same Wallabies 23.
The kickoffs and kick-ons boys came up with McRano. I think that's a pretty decent, if there was going to go Pooper and George Smith and Phil Ward trajectory in the Wallaby Gold. But I'd also say Darcy Swain for the Force, if not Carlo. And then for the Waratahs, I'd just echo what you guys said. Lawson Crichton did look good at 10. And then also Jorgensen couldn't stop scoring. But that's all from us here in Sydney. I hope you enjoyed the chat, and hopefully we can bring you some more of these little tidbits throughout the season. Take it easy, guys. Thank you. It's now the day after the Waratahs and the Force game, and I'm just going to record a quick little segment here to say thank you to Natho and to Finn for saying yes to having a little chat there on their busy schedules whilst we were all watching the game and making sure that we were taking good notes. I'm just recording this in the middle of the Reds and Crusaders game. It's another 55th minute, 36-19, just after the Reds scored. So there's been close games, there's been comebacks. Really excited to see what happens, but by the time you watch this, you'll know what have happened. So hopefully it is a cracker for the rest of the half an hour that is left in the game. But just want to say a quick one. Always, as always, guys, you really help me out and all other rugby lovers if you subscribe, and if you love the channel, you get value from it, please drop me a comment and then also like and also share it with those people who love rugby so we can continue to grow the game and to grow the good vibes around it. New video coming out tomorrow, courtesy of a couple of new guests as well, which is super exciting. So double drop in 2 days, 2 consecutive days, and then we'll go on to Wednesday to do the team drop as always. But thank you so much, guys. I hope you enjoyed the type of video. Let me know in the comments if you want to see more stuff like this, the ins and outs of being a journo and covering rugby, the sport that you guys love. So until the next video. We saw that in the Island Test, we saw that in the England Test. It was a really tight game. And so I whack it up there it is. Now there's a little bit of chat about the fact that if you need to get creative, like, get subscribe,